My name is Jake, and until recently, I believed that everything that couldn't be explained logically was an invention, the superstition of impressionable people, fed by bad movies and camp stories. I laughed at local legends, mocked those who talked about ghosts and curses. For me, monsters have always existed only in the pages of books or behind screens, but everything changed that night. I grew up in a small town in the countryside, one of those places where time seems to move slower, where everyone knows the name of the postman, where the bakery closes at lunch and the windows are open even at night. A peaceful, predictable place, with streets that you can cross with your eyes closed, and where nothing ever happens. At least that's what I thought. My friends and I were inseparable. We were always hunting for anything that would break the monotony. We explored vacant lots, climbed walls of houses under construction, and loved breaking into places that no one dared to enter. We were driven by boredom and youthful adrenaline. The world seemed too small for us. That night, everything was as usual. I had spent a few hours at Ryan's house, playing video games and talking nonsense. It was an ordinary night, with mild weather, with the wind carrying the smell of dry leaves through the almost deserted streets. The clock showed just after 10 when I said goodbye and started walking home. About 10 minutes walking, nothing else. But it only took 2 minutes for me to feel that something was wrong. It was one of those sensations that cannot be explained, as if the air had become heavier, as if the silence itself was watching me. The wind chilled the back of my neck, and a shiver ran down my spine. I looked around, trying to find some explanation, but there was no one on the streets, no lights on, no cars passing by. Even so, my body reacted as if it were being hunted. I quickened my pace, trying to ignore the tightness in my chest. Bullshit, I thought. You're tired. It's just the silence of the city playing a trick on you. That's when I heard it. Steps, boards, dragged away. They were coming from behind. A subtle sound, but impossible to ignore. I turned around and saw it, or rather felt it first, because my mind took a second to process it. It was a man, or something that looked like one. Tall, very thin, with hunched shoulders, as if the weight of time or the world were upon him. He wore a long coat, frayed at the ends, and a hat with a drooping brim that hid part of his face. But what hit me the most were the eyes. Even from a distance I could see they were fixated on me, without blinking, lifeless. I quickened my pace. Him too. The sound of his feet increased, and my heart began to beat out of rhythm. The street, which had previously seemed familiar, was now distorted like a maze of shadows. I turned a corner, then another. My every movement was imitated with disturbing precision. No matter how much I ran, he was still there, always, behind me, always with that dragging, constant step. That's when I turned into a dead end. The alley ended at an old abandoned warehouse. I turned to go back, but he was already there, a few meters away, silent, property. His gaze wouldn't let me breathe. I tried to scream, but my voice died in my throat. And then he advanced, fast, much faster than seemed possible. Before I could react, I felt something press against my face. A cloth. The smell was strong, chemical, sickening. My legs gave way. Everything spun. And then there was only darkness. When I woke up, my head was throbbing. He was lying in something damp and cold. The darkness was almost total, except for a faint sliver of light coming in through old boards. The air smelled of mold, rotting wood, and earth. My hands were tied with rough ropes that hurt my wrists. The silence around was so thick that it made me doubt my hearing. With effort, I managed to sit up. I was in a small room, all made of old wood, with cracks in. The walls and the ceiling so low that it almost touched my head. It was like a basement, but the feeling was worse. It wasn't just the place. That's what he did to me. I felt buried alive. Above, the sound of footsteps, slow, heavy, like those of someone who was not in a hurry. Or maybe someone who was enjoying every moment. I fought against the bonds with all my strength. Despair gave strength to my arms. After a few minutes that felt like hours, the ropes began to give way. My wrists were bleeding, but they were finally free. I stood up, staggering, looking for a way out. The door was thick and locked, but a small window with rusty bars caught my attention. I climbed onto a broken chair and pushed the bars with my shoulder. They gave way little by little with piercing creaks. Just one more push, And then the door opened behind me. The old man entered. His eyes were darker now, as if something inside him was rotting. In his hand was a long, rusty knife with a blade that looked like it had tasted blood before. He looked at me with a thin, empty smile. "You shouldn't have tried to run away," he said, in a low, hoarse voice, like wood being scratched. My body acted before my mind. I picked up a loose piece of wood on the floor and hit him hard on the head. He staggered, grunting, but didn't fall. I didn't wait. I ran. I threw myself through the narrow window, feeling the bars scratch my skin, and fell on the other side. It was a land covered in tall grass, surrounded by dark, twisted trees. The forest stretched ahead like an abyss of shadows. I ran, tripping over branches and rocks, hearing his footsteps behind me. He still followed me. He whispered things, strange words, in a guttural language I had never heard before, as if he were chanting a spell. I hid behind a thick tree, holding my breath. He passed close by, very close, so close that I smelled it, a mixture of mold, sweat, and old blood. His eyes swept the darkness. He whispered, "Jake, Jake." Time stopped. When silence returned, I continued crawling through the woods. The night seemed eternal. I walked for hours, guided by pure instinct, until I found a road, and then I saw headlights, a car. Without thinking, I jumped in front of him, almost getting run over. The driver, scared, took me to the police station. I told everything, every detail. But when the police went to the scene, there was nothing. The house was empty, silent. The floorboards creaked, but there was no furniture, no traps, no signs of a struggle. Just an old knife on the floor, no blood, no fingerprints, meaningless. I was missing for 2 days. When I came back, my friends were there. They hugged me, relieved, but there was something else in their eyes, something that went beyond fear. It was anger. They didn't buy the police's abandoned house story. They believed in me. For the first time, even the most skeptical among us looked at the world with different eyes. And it was there, on that freezing night of reunion, that we made a pact. We were going to find that old man. I would understand what he was. It was going to end it. But what we didn't know is that that story was just beginning. The next morning, the world seemed to continue as normal. The city followed its slow pace. The neighbors were mowing the lawn. The radio in the bakery played the same songs as always, but I wasn't the same anymore. And after that night, neither would my friends. We sat in the old field behind the school, our meeting place since we were children. There was Ryan, who was always the most rational, Logan, who tried to pretend he wasn't scared, and Josh, the only one who really seemed excited about it all. "The police won't do anything," I said, with the hoarse voice of someone who barely slept. "They think it was my freak-out, that I invented everything." "But you almost died, man," Ryan countered. "This is not in your head. You have marks on your wrists. And that cut on his forehead?" Logan moved a rock on the ground, looking down. The knife was there. But what about the old man? It disappeared. He's still out there. To answer, I feel it. I don't know how, but I feel it. Josh let out a nervous laugh. "That sounds like a horror movie script, old man. But if we're really going after this guy, we need to be prepared. He's not normal. He is not human." I completed it without thinking. The silence that followed was heavier than any words. We started our investigation in the dumbest way possible, by scouring obscure internet forums and digging through old city records in the library basement. But what seemed like a joke soon turned into something much more serious. We found in a local newspaper from 1983 a report about the disappearance of 2 teenagers under mysterious circumstances. The detail that gave us goosebumps was the description of a tall, hunched figure with a long coat, seen by residents on the night of the disappearance. The same man who chased me. In another clipping, even older, from 1961, a woman disappeared from the same region where I was taken. The police attributed it to abandonment of home, but in his diary, found and archived, there was the following excerpt. "Something watches me at night. It's in the forest. It talks to me when I'm sleeping. I need to get out of here." It was as if that being appeared every 20 years, like an echo, a cycle. On Saturday night, we returned to where I had escaped, the forest. We were armed with flashlights, batons, and fake courage. The dirt road was deserted, and the grass grew taller than we remembered. The smell of damp earth seemed the same as the room where I woke up tied up. With each step, my heart tightened as if I was reliving it all over again. "Man, this is wrong," Logan whispered. "There's something here, I feel it." "We are being watched," Josh added. "There are eyes here. Lots of eyes." And then we listened. A whisper, weak, almost inaudible, but real. We all freeze. "Was that?" Ryan started to ask, but his voice trailed off. Another whisper, closer, as if the trees were talking to each other. The flashlights started to fail, one by one, and then the entire forest fell silent. No crickets, no rustling leaves, as if everything was holding its breath. That's when Logan fell to his knees, screaming and covering his ears. His eyes were glassy. He was muttering something in a strange language, the same words I heard from the old man while he was hunting me. "It's not him speaking," I murmured. "It's the thing behind him." We managed to drag Logan back to the car and sped out of there. He only came to his senses hours later, at home. He was shaking, sweating, and staring at the wall, as if he saw something that we couldn't see. "He showed me things," whispered the old man, "or what's inside it. He wants us to get back together. He wants you, Jake." From then on, we knew it wasn't just about the old man anymore. It was about something bigger, something that wore bodies like old clothes, something that was lurking, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Over the next week, we investigated everything we could, and it was in a conversation with the oldest librarian in the city, Mrs. Agnes, that we heard for the first time the name that linked everything, the watchman at the crossroads. "I know this story," she said, lowering her tone. "When I was a child, my grandmother said that with each generation, he comes back. He walks through the shadows, always wearing the same coat, looking for someone specific, a link, a conductor, driver," I asked in a shaky voice. "Someone who carries the right trauma, the right pain, the right fear. He feeds on it. It connects, it lodges, and it never really goes away. You are that link, Jake?" I didn't respond, but deep down, I already knew. The following Friday, we decided to go back. Not out of revenge, but because we knew that if we didn't finish this, he would break up with us. We returned with maps, ropes, knives, night cameras. We went deeper into the forest than ever before, guided by the marks on the trees, deep scratches, almost like ancient symbols. In the middle of the forest, we found a half-buried wooden house, covered in moss. She looked older than everything around her. The door was ajar, and inside, everything seemed intact. Old photos on the walls showed people missing from the city. A record player played scratched vinyl, even without power. On the floor, symbols drawn with something dark, dried blood. And then we hear footsteps above, in the attic. We went up slowly. Wood creaked beneath our feet, and there he was, the old man. But this time, his eyes were not human. They glowed like hot coals. His skin seemed to hang from his face like a loose mask, and behind him, there was something on the wall, like a living stain, a tear in reality, pulsating. "You're back," he said. "Like all generations, the cycle needs to continue." Ryan pointed the camera. Josh raised the bat. I advanced, but when he smiled, the house shook, and everything went out. We woke up on the forest floor. The house was gone, as if it had never existed. But on our hands, there were marks, symbols, engraved on the skin. Logan started to laugh, then crying, and then speaking in that damned language again. The old man no longer needed a body. He was at 4 now, inside us, and the cycle had started again. After that night in the forest, something inside us had changed. It wasn't just the trauma, it was deeper, as if a part of the old man had entered along with the fear and decided to stay. The marks on our arms weren't simple cuts. Over time they began to burn, not the physical kind, but from the inside out, as if they called something, as if they were beacons for that thing that called itself the Watcher. Logan was the first to get worse. He stopped leaving the house, put down his cell phone, and started drawing symbols on the bedroom mirror with his own blood. His mother called us crying, saying that he was talking to someone during the night even though he was locked in his room. When we went to visit it, we found the walls scratched with phrases in a guttural language, and one of them chilled us to the bone. The body is just a garment. The mind is the path. Ryan tried to intervene. I wanted to take Logan to a hospital, but that night, Logan disappeared. He fled through the window, leaving only a trail of dirt and a piece of nail stuck to the sill. What scared us most was the mark. His was gone. "He didn't run away," Josh muttered. "He was taken back." In the days that followed, each of us began to break in our own way. Josh developed severe insomnia and heard voices in the corners of the house. He called me at dawn, crying, saying he had eyes inside the bedroom wall. Ryan started having blackouts. I woke up in different places without remembering how I got there. One night we found him standing in front of the city, Lake dressed in an old coat that no one knew where it had come from. When we called him, he just turned his face and whispered, "We're coming back, one by one." As for me, well, I started dreaming about the house, the same one that disappeared. But in the dream she was different, alive, pulsating as if breathing. I would always wake up covered in sweat, with the sound of footsteps walking up a staircase echoing in my head. Always the same feeling. He was coming back. I went to the police station. I showed the symbols. I asked for help. The sheriff, a fat man with a deep voice, looked at my arm and turned pale. Without saying a word, he took me to a back room, unlocked a rusty cabinet, and took out an old binder. Inside, a folder with the name of his father, also a former city sheriff. In the file, a newspaper clipping from 1940. 4 young people disappeared under similar circumstances. The names: Jake, Logan, Josh, Ryan. The same names, the same brands, the same cycle. "That's no coincidence," the sheriff said shakily. "This is repetition." That night I received a call. It was Josh. His voice was different, deeper, more slurred. "Go back to the forest, Jake. They're there. Ryan, Logan, everyone's waiting for you." Before I could respond, the call dropped. The number was my own cell phone. The forest welcomed me like an old acquaintance. I knew the way, even though I had never been there before. The sky was overcast, the air thick. The tree branches felt like hands, trying to stop me from passing, but I continued. The mark burned as if pulling me, and then I saw it. The house. She had returned. Same structure, same rotten boards, but now covered in symbols drawn on what looked like flesh. It pulsed, as if it were made of living tissue, and outside 3 figures were waiting for me. Ryan, Josh, Logan, but it wasn't them anymore. The eyes were dark, the skins a grayish. Their bodies trembled as if something was trying to tear from within. "Welcome home, Jake," they said in unison. I tried to run, but my feet wouldn't obey. The house sucked me in, the air became thicker. The sound of whispers exploded in my mind. I saw scenes, not just from this life, but from others. Lives I never lived, deaths I never died. I was connected to something that went beyond time. The Crossroads Watcher was not a man. He was a breaking point, a hole in reality where pain accumulated, where forgotten memories tangled, where fear created form. And I was your mirror. I entered. The floor creaked beneath my feet as if recognizing its owner. Inside, everything was distorted. The house seemed bigger inside. There were stairs that led to nothingness, doors that opened onto walls of flesh. Whispers came from the cracks, names, dates, calls for help. In the center of the room, a chair. In it, the old man, or rather, what was left of him. A dry, emptied body, as if it had been used and discarded. But his eyes still followed me. "The cycle must continue," he murmured. "It always goes on. You're the last one. The bridge, the return." My hands were shaking. The mark on his arm burned like a living fire. And then I realized the only way to end this was to break the cycle, deny the entity its bridge, burn the root. And I knew where I was. I went up to the attic. There, the heart of the house beat. An altar made of bones, pieces of mirror and photographs of everyone who came before. In the center, a black candle, flickering and alive, like an eye. I pulled the lighter out of my pocket. I looked back. My friends were there watching me, or what was left of them. "I'm sorry," I whispered, and I lit it. The house screamed, not with sound, but with pain. A scream that exploded in my mind. Everything burned. Walls contorted, symbols went out in flames. I threw myself out the window before everything collapsed. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. 2 days later, my friends, missing. Again, no traces. The police searched the forest, but the house was gone again. The marks on my arm are gone too, but something still pulses deep down, a constant whisper, as if the forest was calling back. The cycle has been broken, but only for now. And if anyone reads this one day, listen to what I'm going to say. If you hear footsteps behind you on an empty street, don't look. If you dream of a house you've never seen but know inside, don't go in, because the watcher doesn't die. He just waits.